think we're going to have
It says we're live. There you go.
okay. Uh, it's 1:12 p.m. Tuesday, March the 7th, and this is the Public Service and Facilities Committee meeting. And I want to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and the public have been duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. We had a little bit of a delay getting started this afternoon. It should have been at 1 o'clock, but we had some connectivity issues. And we have two of the three committee members here. Councilmember Popson will be joining us on a Zoom call, and myself, Rusty Streetman, is here in council chambers in person. So, our first regular order of business is approval of the previous meeting's minutes from February the 14th of 2023. Is there a motion to approve those meeting minutes?
So moved.
The motion has been made by Councilmember Popson, and I will second that motion. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right. Next item, citizens' comments. I think we do have one citizen's comment today, and Nicole, is that correct?
Just Miss Wood.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm Mimi Wood, 3100 Waterway Boulevard, and I'm here to ask the city through the Public Facilities Committee to consider erecting a plaque that would recognize Norma Jean Page for her contributions to the city and dedication to the city over the past 25 years. So I had originally had a plaque in mind as I went through the community and got 216 signatures. A couple of people had mentioned maybe like some kind of rock or something, a boulder with a plaque mounted on it. So I don't know. I mean, ultimately, I think that would probably be a little bit nicer. That would go outside. I did look into the cost. There's a boulder I can get from Hidden Ponds for like $195. And the cost of a plaque, I just called a couple of places, looks like it would be between $700 and $900 on the very highest side, and that would be bronze. He said it could get even cheaper if we did aluminum, and they would last both as long. So I can do all that research, but I didn't want to put the cart before the horse. So I appreciate you letting me speak, and a lot of people are in favor of this idea. I will say people that weren't 110% fans of Norma Jean, even some of them, like she always yelled at my kids, but they went ahead and signed, I think because they did recognize the, I do, people, more than one person was like, you know. But I think they recognized her heart was in the right place and her dedication to the city, and she did make, you know, I mean, I know there was a lot of people involved in doing that building, but she was kind of, I guess, there on site overseeing the whole thing. So thanks for your consideration. And
Thank you. Thank you for your comments. Desiree, I think we probably, since Ms. Wood's still here, should we just reorder the agenda here and bring up, skip over old business for now and go to new business and move item B, which is discussion regarding an appreciation plaque at the Recreation Center honoring Norma Jean, our former recreation director. Can we just move that?
Yeah,
to
we can do
now?
that.
You okay with that, Councilmember Popson?
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we can just go ahead and have some quick discussion on that. So I'll just open it up in saying that, Mimi had approached me a number of weeks ago in regards to this, and I think it's a really good idea and one that's worthy of consideration for us to pass along to council in our workshop. And Mimi really did the heavy lifting on this. I mean, to have 260 or so signatures, people in support of doing something there to honor the long-term service of Norma Jean, I think is a lot to her credit for the impact and the that she's made on the island over the years. So myself, I'm in favor of taking this forward to the council workshop. And Councilmember Popson, if you've got anything to add or any other thoughts, and please do so at this point.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I'm in favor of this as well. I think this is the least we can do for Norma Jean, who has been with us for so long. And I know my kids enjoyed her and the staff growing up. So, like I said, I think this is a good thing, and I think it's the least thing we could do.
Okay, with that being said, Desiree, well, I don't think we need to vote on this, or should we? Should we go ahead and vote?
We can add it to the workshop agenda as
Yeah.
a discussion topic
Okay.
and get next steps at that point.
Okay, good. So we'll just add it, we'll add it to the workshop agenda, and this will be discussed at that point. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mimi.
Welcome. All right, going back to old business, item number 4, we have no old business, so then we'll go on to new business, and item A is discussion of yard debris and contractor landscaping debris. And I'm going to turn things over to a number of people here. I know we have Councilmember Popson, who first brought up this subject to me, so I'll let him kind of preface with his remarks, and then Donnie Pitts, Desiree, whoever would like to weigh in on this subject. We certainly want to have some conversation around it. So, Kevin Popson.
Yes, sir. Thanks again, Mr. Chairman. I hope y'all can hear me. Yeah, this is something I asked Desiree and Mr. Chairman to add on to the agenda. Just a few days ago, just driving from 32nd to the S-curve on Palm Boulevard, I think I counted 8 or 10 large piles of landscaping debris, which is pretty obvious for me that it was a contractor doing it, not just a homeowner. And I want to say that maybe this was brought up by Public Works maybe a year ago, or maybe even prior to that. So I think there might have been some discussion about this, but I wanted to kind of bring it up again to see if there's anything that we can do to try to limit this. I'm sure it's a burden on the Public Works staff, fuel for the trucks and the equipment. But I'm not one to, just do an ordinance or add to an ordinance that can't be enforced. So I just wanted to have some discussion and maybe get Donnie's thoughts or Desiree or Douglas's thoughts on, has this come up before? Is there something we can point to on the books? Is there something we can do about this? Is there any desire to do anything about this? So.
Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. And with that, I'll turn things over to either Desiree or Donnie, whoever would like to begin the discussion on this, or take it from there so we can have some further enlightenment.
I think we can both, chime in. I've
Okay.
included the section of the code on trash collection so that we can all see the current regulations that are included in the city code today. As you can see, there are no requirements that contractors haul off any, yard debris that's generated by their work. That is something that we could consider, and we can look at example languages of what that would look like. But it would require an amendment to the code. I know I'll let Donnie chime in into sort of, how the yard debris operation works today, the resources that we have available, and the schedule that we have in place for yard debris. In terms of enforcing an ordinance that requires contractors, landscapers to take yard debris, haul it off, there are some challenges with enforcement that I think we need to know about. It's not going to be, no enforcement is perfect, but certainly I think there's an opportunity that we can improve by codifying something. But it would require the police department and a code enforcement or livability officer to kind of be able to identify whether the pile that's generated was produced by a contractor or not. So we'll let the police department kind of advise us on the enforcement piece of whether, if we pursue an ordinance like that. But I'll just let Donnie kind of speak through how he currently operates yard debris and w- help us identify where maybe some improvements could be made.
Okay, thank you. Donnie?
Yeah, so the Public Works yard debris operation operates 5 days a week, 48 hours a day, so 40 hours a week to get this 7 Mile Island cleaned. Even though the announced day of collection is Wednesdays, we operate Monday through Fridays. And just by sheer knowledge of the local residents, most folks know when the Public Works Department is going to be in their area. We're fairly consistent with when we get the Breach Inlet side, the center of the island, and Wild Dunes. And it's divided into 3 sections, but it takes 40 hours, especially with us having to deliver 100% of our debris collections to the Bees Ferry landfill. So even though the employees are working 8 hours, is the machinery in operation for 8 solid hours? No, not with just 2 flatbeds and packers on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday that we also pack debris in. So that's kind of how the operation is today, 5 days a week, and it takes all 5 days to clear every subdivision so that each household, resident, or second home gets service per week. And it's all based on volume as well. If you have a storm, then naturally, the more volume you have, the harder it is to complete the 7 Mile Island. But that's kind of how the operation stands today. I think there's been discussion about outside opportunities, but just keep in mind it's a lot. Whatever we do, it's a lot easier when you have control over when you can get it rather than having to wait on third parties. That being said, when you have storms, we can be out there. Otherwise, we're waiting on the mercy of debris contractors and that kind of thing.
Okay.
Any questions on that, Kevin? Rusty?
No, sir, not at this point.
I've got a couple of things here, just for clarification as much as anything, Donnie, but just how big of an issue is this for you all? I mean, is it really overwhelming? And when we get to this time of the year, spring and summer, with the debris that's generated and piled up on Palm and some of these other streets, and being able to get to it on a timely basis?
So you have 2 seasons. You have the spring season with major yard cleanups, and you have the fall season with major yard cleanups. Naturally, anytime you have what we consider cat piles, which is what Kevin was talking about on Palm Boulevard just the other day, the more volume, the more loads goes to landfill, the slower the efficiency for the island it becomes to service every subdivision. So it is problematic, but at the same time, we try to get it up as quickly and as efficiently as we can. But naturally, large debris piles are very problematic for the Public Works Department.
And do you find that the large debris piles mostly are created by professional contractors versus the homeowner?
Yeah, I would say yes. Although the 21st one last week, that was a homeowner. You wouldn't think so, but it was a homeowner with friends at the 21st, 22nd on the ocean side that had those two large piles. That was, now whether he paid those friends or not, I don't know, but it was not professional landscapers.
Right. Okay, and then certainly, anything that of course, we'll be talking about this further, the workshop or whatever, the rest of council, but we're not thinking that in regards to anything that a homeowner does when they clean their own debris. I mean, we're not looking at them taking any steps to haul that debris off themselves. That still would fall under the auspices of our Public Works Department.
Correct.
Correct. Okay. And I guess the last point or last question I'd have, and this is one that we have to really take a look at, I think, going forward, is are there unintended consequences with doing something like this also in regards to being able to get professional landscapers and contractors out here because we're taking that extra step and having them remove the debris themselves, which increase their cost, obviously, and puts a strain on their time. So does that, which has to be passed along, so I'm sure that would be passed along to whoever they're doing the work for. So that would be sort of baked into the cost of the job, so to speak. So two things there. I'm wondering if it would raise rates tremendously on homeowners, and would it also have the effect of some landscapers just saying, I don't want to do work on Isle of Palms if that's what I'm going to have to do going forward because I've got plenty of other work elsewhere. And I don't know what other municipalities do. I guess that's something we ought to research, but just throwing all that out there. I'm not, doing anything other than putting ideas out there.
I will say that every municipality has the same issues. Contractors, and they're not stupid, and they know when they can put the debris out and when they have to haul it off. There are debris contractors over here, yard contractors, that do haul their debris off. They're not all that do not, but certainly there are more than there ever have been that are now putting it on the street. But I think every municipality has the same issue that they'll do a big job and a landscape job at a home and certainly put it on the street. I know in Mount Pleasant they have the same issues. Okay. And then going to church on Sundays and going across Sullivan's Island, I looked Sunday and there was yard debris pile after yard debris pile on Sunday morning.
I saw the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay, so all that being said, I mean, I certainly think this is something in my mind that's very worthy of taking on to our workshop for discussion. And Councilmember Popson, I'm assuming you want to do the same, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. And just a couple comments. I have a landscape contractor to do my yards, and they take everything away. And I want to say a lot of these companies, it's normal business just to haul what they take or cut. And I wouldn't be surprised if they've already baked in a number for hauling it off, and they're just, getting a little bit more margin because they don't have to haul it off and just leave it there. So, yeah, absolutely. I think this is worth at least some more discussion, whether it be at the workshop or whatever the next step is. And thank you, Donnie.
Yeah, the one thing that the city can do and is doing much better now is the enforcement of the business license portion on site, and I see them out there checking their valid business licenses, and that's always helpful.
Great. Okay, so Desiree, can we treat this item the same as we did the other? Just move it to the workshop for discussion?
Yeah, yes, sir. And we can also look at how, if there are other communities that restrict or require contractors to haul off their yard debris, we can get some information how, what their ordinances look like and how they enforce that and communicate that. We can.
Good. I think it would be good if we could at least get that kind of information for some, for some comparison and contrast. Okay. And Donnie and Robert, your team, thank you. Yeah, and thank you all, Donnie and Robert, for all the work that you and your team are doing, and you all do, I think, an outstanding job keeping this island as tidy as you can, given the circumstances. And I know we're coming into another tough time of the year, and hopefully we don't have any major storms to deal with this year. We're going to be positive on that. Thanks a lot. All right. Item C, discussion of the draft full year 24 operational budget for Public Works, Recreation, Front Beach, Beach and Marina. So.
All right, we'll start. I'll go ahead and start with Public Works, and I'll just go through like we've done in other committees. I just go through very highlights, any new additions or changes to prior year, any new programs or initiatives that we're requesting consideration and approval. And I'll just highlight those. If y'all want me to go line by line, I can certainly do that. Or if you have any specific questions about a particular line item, I can certainly help address or answer those questions. But for the Public Works Department, same head count as last year. We're not proposing any new personnel there. There is a slight decrease from the FY23 budget. You can see there roughly $30,000. The reason is, as y'all know, the Assistant Public Works Director that retired after 42 years. Obviously, somebody having a career with the city for 42 years, he was at the high end of the range for that position. We've replaced that role with a lower sort of somebody starting, so not at the same rate, and that's where you can see some of the savings that are reflected in that column. The budget does include a 2.5 merit increase. This is our first draft. I mentioned at the administration committee that we're looking at how we compare to other communities and if that number needs to be adjusted. We're still going through that analysis, and we'll make any suggestions or any changes to future budget as we review them in the next few months. Under IT equipment, want to highlight an addition that we've included. I'm looking at line item 23. There is we're increasing that line item by $10,000 for a City Works maintenance management software. This would be something, a resource that would assist the city in managing and maintaining drainage and having a system where we can have all that lined up by year. Right now, we kind of have an Excel spreadsheet, and we have a list and a contract, and we go through that every year when we have our drainage maintenance contractor come over. But this would create a more robust maintenance system. We can also include fleet maintenance through that system, and it would create a lot of efficiencies in the way that we currently track and update our maintenance activities. Another change under non-capital tools and equipment, line item 24. We included an additional $6,000 for our new stormwater foreman in the event that there's any equipment needed for the work that they're doing in terms of maintaining drainage facilities on the island, and also to support the jack vac trailer that was purchased earlier this year or late last year. Okay. Temp labor, we have a $4,000 increase there. That's essentially includes, we are adding hours to that operation because, as y'all know, Joe Washington, when before he retired, he had the responsibility to pick up items left on the beach. He would patrol the beach every morning. That is not something that the stormwater facilities foreman that we replace that role with is doing. So we're going to be adding some additional temp labor to support that operation.
And we'll still be doing that every morning during the season?
Yes, sir. And
We'll just do it with temp labor.
I'll let Donnie expand.
Okay.
So you'll probably see me a lot more out there on the beach this summer because Joe, not only did he pick up all of the tents and chairs, but he also helped me manage the contractor for the yellow barrels. I'll do that myself this year, but we will have temp labor picking up the broken tents and umbrellas as needed through the 13 or 14 weeks of the season.
Okay.
All right. Any questions on that first page? I'll
Not from me, and just keep rolling, Desiree, unless
Okay.
you hear either Councilmember Popson or myself raise your hand or raise your voice.
All right. Second, the fourth page, under Capital Projects Fund for the Public Works Department. Here you can see on line item 51, design and construction total estimate for the 41st Avenue ditch drainage project. That we removed that amount that we had forecasted for FY24 because that project, as well know, it's fully funded by the State Office of Resiliency. But we are including the city's cost share, which is $29,000 for the permitting. Under capital outlay, we've included half of the cost of the next undergrounding project, undergrounding utility lines project, which is at the marina. We have it estimated that half of it is estimated at about $90,000, and Mayor Pounds has requested that we talk at the next workshop. We've revised the schedule that we had developed with Dominion Energy a couple of years ago that identified the locations where undergrounding utility lines were feasible and those cost estimates to see whether that prioritization in that list is still valid and whether or not we need to change it, or certainly we'll probably need to change and update cost estimates. But we, as it's built in today, is based on the direction we got last year from council on the marina being the next project. We've also included here $1.1 million for the Waterway Boulevard multi-use path elevation project. This project is something that we've been working with our grant writer, and we submitted a grant application from FEMA, the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program, for that project to be funded by state funds. So we should know by the end of this summer whether or not we're successful in getting that grant. If we are not, we are budgeting the funds that would allow us to move forward with it.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we cannot start the work on that project if we want to remain eligible for the grant funding. But we're still budgeting and allocating funds to allow us to do that in the event that we're not successful at getting grant funds.
Great, that's a smart thing to do. I think we had some discussion about this last month, that very issue there, that with the requesting the grant, we really can't, we have to go ahead and budget the dollars, and but we can't start any work until we know about the grant, or else that's out of here. And I like the idea too of us going back and reprioritizing the undergrounding on the electric lines also, to see which of those projects really truly does need to go next in the lineup.
Well, and specifically related to the marina project, Donnie, Robert, Douglas, and I met with the Dominion Energy representative a couple of months ago on site and discussed very high level and conceptually what that project would entail, and it's much more complicated than I think initially was contemplated, which will probably require additional funding to support that, and just a higher engineering cost as well.
Okay.
All right, drainage contingency, that's line item 53. We have $350,000 there, $100 for just ongoing drainage contingency needs. This helps us address drainage needs as they become we become aware of them. We're looking at just smaller projects. As you all know, we're wrapping up the drainage master plan, which will give us a very comprehensive list of ongoing maintenance and future projects, and we'll follow that list as we continue to pursue new projects. All right, let me see. Anything new under municipal accommodations tax? I'm looking at line item 65. Well, let me back up. On 64, there you can see how we're splitting the total, the city's portion of any undergrounding utility lines project. We all know 50% is covered by Dominion Energy, and the city has to have a 50% cost share. We're splitting our 50% between capital projects and the municipal accommodations tax. And you can see where that additional 87,000 is being budgeted. Surveying equipment for in-house drainage maintenance, $20,000. This is a rebudget from FY23. At the time when a jackback trailer became available, we started reallocating funds from the budget to allow us to purchase that piece of equipment at about $52,000. This was one of the pieces that we said, let's wait on purchasing this. We'll defer it to the next year and reallocate those $20,000 towards the purchase of the jetback trailer. So we're rebudgeting the drainage surveying equipment, which I think will be necessary as we enhance our abilities at maintaining drainage in-house.
Okay.
All right, under Muni tax drainage, you can see half of the $500,000 provision that we've been including to allow us to continue the work, drainage work as identified by the master plan. So we have a $100,000 contingency plus a $500,000 placeholder for those future projects. Under hospitality tax, 193.8, that is the citywide landscaping contract. Let me back up. The contract is about $70,000 to $75,000 a year, but we enhance that placeholder to allow us to do additional landscaping as necessary. And one of the things that we are hearing about is desire for enhanced beautification in more public areas around the island. So we'll be using these sources of funds to do that. Another thing I wanted to mention, it is not in the public works budget now, but it's currently under general government, but we've been talking about recoding that under the public works department, is the palm tree pruning. We started having that, doing that every 3 years. Then we, maybe 2 years ago, reduced that to every 2 years. And now we're going to go through a yearly pruning for all of the palm trees that are on the public right-of-way that were part of the Plant a Palm Tree project. Those in Front Beach, there's about 19 or 20 in the rec department. So we'll do that, and we're also requiring them, part of that contract is for them to haul it off. So it's not going to be picked up by our folks at Public Works. The contractor will handle that. So that's an additional expense of $34,000, but you're not seeing that now, but you will. It'll be recoded under Public Works. But that is a new initiative that we're doing.
And that's the same issue that we discussed in an earlier committee meeting
Yes.
this morning also.
We talked about it at the administration committee because we reviewed the general government, which is where it's
Right.
coded now.
And they're out working today, trimming those trees.
Yes, sir.
Charleston Tree Service.
All right.
Second.
State accommodations tax, there is one provision here, which we talked about it when we reviewed the 10-year capital plan last month, is the purchase of a new Caterpillar trash loader. We talked about keeping the one that we currently have, continue to maintain that so that we can, again, we're going to have a bigger fleet. It'll make it much easier and timely for yard debris operations in the future with two pieces of equipment. So you'll see how we're proposing that we fund that through the state accommodations tax. One thing that will add to the workshop agenda is the lead time for these apparatus is, I believe, 18 months, maybe 12 to 18 months.
The Caterpillar's 8 months.
8
out,
months.
But it still puts us in the new year. We need to get it on the books as quickly as possible to get it in process.
I got confused with the fire apparatus. Those are long lead time. But yeah, so even, we certainly we need to get this approved through the budget, but if we could get an approval from council ahead of the time when the budget is ratified, that would allow us to issue a notice of intent to the contractor so that they can start building it, we'd be able to obtain the apparatus at the right time
Okay.
ahead, in the next fiscal year. We'll discuss that at the workshop.
Okay, great.
And have a recommendation for council at the time. All right, that's all we have with Public Works. Are there any questions before we go to
I'm
rec?
good with what you've presented so far, other than what we interjected. How about you, Kevin?
I'm good, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Desiree.
You're
Donnie.
welcome.
All right.
All right, Ms. Carey, why don't you join us? So for the Recreation Department, page 5 in your packet, very similar. We're not adding any head count here. There are some savings there related to, personnel that's, retired, and we're rehiring folks at a different rate. So you'll see those savings there. It assumes, again, like we're assuming with every department, a 2.5 merit increase. So nothing new there. There's an increase in line item 44 and 45. Their fees have increased, so we're just increasing those based on actual.
That's official fees, so they've gone up, huh?
Yes, there's a couple of items under programs, special activities, summer camps. There's just a slight increase compared to last year. We're basing that on actual. If you look at the the most recent 12 months, we're adjusting some of those by $1,000, $1,500. Nothing too dramatic. Carrie, is there anything we need to add on that?
I don't think so. No, there's just questions.
Good.
All right, under Capital Projects Fund, here is where we've included a rebudget of the upgrading the AV system in rec classrooms and the camera system server. So we want to have ensured that we have the capability in the Recreation Department meeting rooms where we sometimes conduct public hearings to be able to do that and live stream those. So we've included a $30,000 provision to allow us to do that. Acoustical panels for the gym at $30,000. That was something we discussed when we went through the 10-year capital plan. So we're including that under capital outlay. And we're also proposing to cover the cost of the outdoor fitness court that Carrie presented to us last month. We're proposing to fund that with a combination of capital projects, municipal accommodations tax, and state aid tax. So you'll see that distribution throughout the different funds.
Okay.
Under municipal accommodations tax, capital outlay, here's where we have coded the replacement of the SUV that is assigned to the director and the department for $36,000. Hospitality tax includes the replacement of the biparting curtain in the gym. Lighting for the pickleball courts at $25,000. Special activities that are funded through hospitality include the Holiday Fest, the Front Beach Fest, which we just had this past weekend. It was just absolutely fabulous.
Sure
And
was. Hey, by the way, backing up to, I guess, line 70 again, just real quickly. Yeah, we had some discussion last month, I guess it was, about rehabbing the breach inlet boat ramp, and you have that included in this capital outlay budget for FY '24.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that's on the recreation department budget. That's something
Yeah, that's kind of where I was going. I don't know. But,
I made a
but
note to myself.
we've got it in the budget
We-
anyway. It's
we
just
got
a matter of
it.
where it needs to be.
It should be in a different fund, but
Okay.
thank you for pointing that out.
And you're right, the Holiday Fest, Front Beach Fest was very good.
I know they're
Awesome
just
day.
so awesome, and the day was beautiful, and the planning. All I hear from all the vendors were just how great the planning and the communication was from the staff. So that they did a phenomenal job. Under state accommodations tax fund, we have $20,000 to replace playground equipment and scoreboard as needed. That's a placeholder that we always have in the budget in the event that we just replaced one this year. So we're
Replace some swings and put in a new piece from a different piece that wasn't working so well. So,
We also included $30,000 to replace the dog park fence and the equipment. We want to do some sprucing up in that great dog park in the back. So that number may need to be refined as we get more information, but that'll be a placeholder to allow us to do that next fiscal year.
Right.
And then 3 special events that are funded through the state accommodations tax fund include the connector run for $7,500, the Easter egg hunt for $4,500, and the music event in May, at $4,500 as well. That's all I have for rec. Any questions for me or Carrie?
I'm good. How about you?
I'm good.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie. All right, the Marina Enterprise Fund, that'll be the last budget that we'll look at. Not a whole lot new. Most of the big projects are rebudgets from FY '23. We obviously have the debt issue, the debt service for the dock replacement GO bond that was issued a couple of years ago. That's under the Marina General and Administrative section. You can see on line item 26, we have that marina maintenance contingency piece at $50,000. This is same initiative that we're doing with all city facilities to budget a percentage of the insured value. So this would be the city's piece for those areas around the marina that are not currently under any lease. Mainly the public dock. We'll talk in a minute the funds that we've allocated for the public dock project and the green space, but this would be just an ongoing maintenance provision that we're including for all facilities that are managed and maintained by the city. That line item, and this is something that we're gonna have to fix in the budget. It included, we've been assuming needing to do dredging at the marina in the next few years. Last year, the city received a state budget allocation of $1.5 million for marina dredging. So we are taking that out of our forecast for FY '25, since the plan would be fully funded by that allocation.
Very good.
We are including about $50,000 for the permitting to allow us to start the permit process this year. That's under the professional services line item. So this would be in excess of the 1.5 for the construction of the dredging project. The city would be assuming the cost of the permitting piece.
Hey, Desiree, can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
So going forward with a dredging permit, do you or Douglas know how long that permit is good for?
I believe it's good for 5 years, and it could be extended for an additional 5.
Similar to like the dock permits or?
Yes. And similar to any like beach renourishment projects, they're also good for 5 years, but able to extend it up to 10.
Got it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Under professional services, we have $10,000 for legal fees, $2,000 for the underground storage tank testing, and a provision for tenant financial statement review. This was something that was added last year in the event that the city wanted to do some type of forensic check on financial statements of the two tenants. We would keep a provision in the budget to allow us to do that in the event that city council pursues that.
Okay.
Okay. You can see the insurance costs on the new docks included for $150,000 under marina operations. And for the ramp and the bulkhead, it's included there. All right. The next page is where you'll see how we are, as y'all know, the capital additions are not, they're capitalized, they're not expensed. So it's this is how we treat the Marina Enterprise Fund. But we are rebudgeting, and as you can see, the improvements to the T-Dock at $400,000, and this is something that we have in our current FY23 budget, but both tenants requested that the city pause on that and allow the new tenant, their new marina operator, to get in and you know, go through a season, identify what's working and what other opportunities there may be with that improvement, and whether or not the restaurant and the operator who share the use of that T-Dock, whether or not they have they want to partner in some other way to enhance that dock. So we are rebudgeting it and sort of waiting until the end of the season that we can have another conversation with both parties to see what we do next on that T-Dock.
I'm glad they brought that up. I think that's a smart thing to do.
Yes, I agree. And then we've also included the $150,000 for the public green space. And line item 96 also includes, along with in the 2 million too, it includes 1.7, which is what we are estimating the new public dock, newly improved public dock at the marina to cost. Council last year identified or allocated $1 million from the $2.2 million that the city received in ARPA funding, allocating $1 million to that project. So there's about $700,000 that would still need to be funded. And at the workshop, we'll have a conversation with council about either utilizing the more money from ARPA funding to fully fund the 1.7, or if we tap into some tourism funds to cover the remaining portion of that public dock improvement project. Are there any questions? That's all I have.
Kevin, anything at this point?
No, Mr. Chairman, I'm good. Excellent work again. Thank you.
Yep. I'm good too, and we'll see this next at the workshop, correct?
Yes, sr. You'll see the whole budget.
Yeah, right. And just for clarification too, Desiree, any of these, all of these draft budgets, they are online if the public wants to look at them. Is that correct? Or do we just circulate these among ourselves at this point?
So typically we include them as part of the packet that's distributed ahead of time. I know this time the draft budget for each department were sent to council separately. So I don't think these are on the website. We'll post them later today just for everybody to have it under other files. But the entire draft of the budget, as we've presented it, will be included in the packet for council's workshop next Tuesday.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. All right, let's see. Moving on to miscellaneous business, really all we have under that is our next meeting date and time, and that's recommended to be Tuesday, April the 4th at 1 p.m. Councilmember Popson, you okay with that date and time?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I am as well, so we will put that down. No executive session needed today, so if there's a motion for adjournment, I will entertain that.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it. All in favor? Aye.
Uh,
Record of
thank
2:01.
you all.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thanks.